All right, welcome back, the genius. So today, let's talk about version control system, and Git happens to be one of them. So we'll be talking about version control system, and basically we're talking about Git and GitHub. Okay. So in the next few days, we'll be talking about Git, version control system, and GitHub. All right. So now we'll talk on how to install Git on our system. We'll also talk of how to set up GitHub account. But this is going to be your practice. All right. This is going to be your practice. And then you'll be reading Pro Git chapter 1. Please ask for the book. Ask for the book. Go to the WhatsApp group, ask for the book, and then you will get it. You have to read chapter 1 of this book, Pro Git. Ask for the PDF file, okay? All right, so what's a version control system? What's a VCS? A version control system is a tool that helps developers manage changes to source code or any set of files over time. Now, it is not just only for developers. It's not only for source code, no, any file at all. So version control system is a tool that is used to manage the changes you made to a file. It could be an image, it could be a video. So if you want to track the changes that you made to a particular file, you would have to use version control system. So when you use version control system, it will help you to manage the changes that you have made to a particular set of files over time. So it will record the modifications, who made the modifications and why, allowing teams to work together without overwriting each other's work. Now, in as much as this version control system is for every file at all, whatever the file is, we will limit it to source code, because now version control system helps developers to actually work in collaboration. So if you get a job now and you're working as a developer in a team, you will definitely have access to their GitHub account, where you would have access to the repositories of the project. So this, with the version control system, every change that you make, and if you push it or commit it, it will record the modifications. It would also record the person that made the changes. Why did the person make the changes? Then allowing teams to work together without overwriting each other's work. So 1 million people can work on the same project without having issues through version control system. So the key features of version control system are: it keeps track of every change. Every change that you make to a file, to a source code, to any project at all, it will keep track of it. It will give you the history of a project. Don't worry, as we go on, we are going to unfold. And again, the project that we did last in our day 7, what's it called again? The to-do list, the to-do list app that we did. We are going to what we'll do is that we would push it to GitHub. The last day of this particular section, we will push it to GitHub. Then, as we go on to be making changes to that same application, we would be using GitHub to keep track. So we'll be using Git, not even GitHub, we'll be using Git to keep track of the changes we made to a particular project. So most times, projects start very small and they grow big. You see this, our platform that you're using to learn now, it started very, very small. So, and if I go to the GitHub repo, or even the local one at the Git repository that I have locally on my system, I will see the history of the project. So with version control system, it helps you to keep track of every change that you make to a particular project. It allows for collaboration among multiple developers. So anybody can be anywhere making changes to a particular project, and there will be no conflict. So there is need for you to start using version control system. In fact, you cannot, any job you get, they will ask you, if you go to any job interview, they would need to know if you know how to use Git and GitHub. Do you understand? So this is something you would have to be very good at. So it makes it possible to roll back to previous versions. So let's assume now that you made some changes and you didn't like the changes that you made, and maybe you have committed, you can roll back to the previous version. All right. So and still have the same thing that you're working with. It helps you to manage conflict when multiple people edit the same file. So 1 million people can edit the same file at the same time, and there will be no conflict. That is what version control system does for you. Okay, so it is a skill that you must have. So let's take a look at types of version control system. And again, if you read the book, the Pro Git chapter 1, you're going to understand the history of version control systems. All right. So I will leave that history for you to go and read up in that book. So let's talk about types of version control systems. We have the local version control system. So this local version control system stores version on a single computer. So mostly those days, they used to just copy. You can copy one file or one directory or one folder to another folder. Okay, so it's used to store versions on a single computer. Example is RCS, Revision Control System. All right. The limitation is that it's not ideal for collaboration. It can only be used by one person. It's not ideal for collaboration, so it is not used. So from the local version control system, we now move to centralized version control system. So with this one now, people can collaborate and work on a project. So there is a one central server that stores the code base. There is a one code base. That's one central server that stores the code base. Developers will pull code from and push changes to the server. So everybody is connected to one server that has the code base. So developers can pull code from the server or push changes to the server. Example is CVS, Subversion, and Perforce. But the limitation is that if the server goes down, no one can collaborate. So if for any reason that server that is serving everybody goes down, that means nobody can access the code base anymore. So it's a very big limitation. So this gave birth to distributed version control system. Each developer has a full copy of the repository. Every developer has a full copy of the repository. Collaboration works even offline. Changes are very synchronous. Changes are synchronous later. Sorry, changes are synchronized later. So I can work on a particular project offline without connecting to the internet. Then when I'm done, I can now synchronize. So I can now push to the repository and everybody will see it. Git is an example. Mercurial is an example, but Git is by far the most popular, and that's what everybody is using. So Git is the most widely used. So that is what we are teaching you in this 1 week. Okay. So what is Git? So Git is a free open source. It is free. It is open source. It is distributed version control system created by Linus Torvalds. Linus Torvalds is the creator of Linux operating system, and it was created in 2005. There is a history of these two. So you can read it up in the Pro Git chapter 1. So features of Git: it is distributed. It is not centralized. It is not local. It is distributed. Every developer has the full history. Okay. Fast and efficient. It is designed for large projects. It is fast and very efficient. There's something we call branching and merging. Easy experimentation and collaboration. So we'll talk about branching and merging in later classes where you will understand better. It is very secure. It uses something we call checksums. All right. It uses something we call checksums, and then it uses SHA-1 hash to track data integrity. When you read the chapter 1 of Pro Git, you're going to understand better how these checksums work. Okay. All right. So it is free and widely supported. So it is very, very amazing. So basic Git concepts: repository. So a repo or a repository is a collection of files and their history tracked by Git. Now, if you want to start any project, basically you'll be having a repo or a repository for it. So now, for me developing this platform, I have a repository for this project. So as I keep on making changes to it, all right, the repository is there. So I started this project in August 2024. So if I go back to this repository, I'm going to see all the changes I have made from that time till now. All right. So You can also have this local repository on your computer. Now, I have this local repository on my computer. I also have it on GitHub. So if anything happens to this my system now, I won't bother. I'll just go to my GitHub repository and I would clone it again to another system. So I have it locally. I also have it remote. So I have it on my system right now. I also have it stored on the server like GitHub. I have it locally. I have it on GitHub. So there's another thing called a commit. So a commit is a snapshot of changes in your project. So if I make any changes to this project now, I would have to commit it. Once I commit it, GitHub will create a snapshot. It's like a picture of the changes I have just made to that project. And it will save that snapshot for me. It will save it. And once I push it, if I push it to GitHub, it would take that the same changes and push it to GitHub. So a commit is like a snapshot of changes in your project. So anytime you're working on a project and you make any changes, you will have to commit that change. If not, GitHub will not see it. So if you commit it, GitHub will create a snapshot of the changes that you just made to that project. We also have what we call branch. So a branch is a separate line of development. Now, let's say as I'm currently working on this project now, I might decide, okay, I want to add a new feature to this project. So I wouldn't want to go and mess around with the full repository. What I would do is that I would branch out of the main repository and then be working on it separately. So it will not affect my whole work. So in case the new features and job and project I'm working on does not go well, I'll still have my main repository intact. So if you have millions of developers, 10, 20, 50 developers, you can share the job between developers. Say, okay, Mr. A, work on feature A. Mr. B, work on feature B. Mr. C, work on feature C. So they are going to branch out of the main repository, all right, and start working on that feature. So when they are done with that feature, they will now merge it with the main repository. So that brings us to merge. So after you have created a branch, which is a separate line of development, to work on a particular feature, all right, when you're done, you can come and merge the changes that you have made. So combining changes from one branch into another is what we call merging. Do you understand? So, but don't worry, as we go on, you get to understand better all these things. So we also have something we call clone. So if I don't have, if in case now I get a job or I am to work with other developers on a particular project, all right, for me to have access to the repository, the remote repository they have maybe on GitHub, I will need to clone it. So cloning it means copying a remote repository to your local system. So once I clone it, I will now be working offline. I can now start working on that same project offline. So that is what is called cloning. So I'm having the same project file that they have on GitHub. So once I am done making the changes, I would commit my changes to the GitHub to Git. Then I will now push it. So I will send back all the changes I have made to the remote repository so that every other person can see it. So that's what we mean by pushing. You can also pull or fetch. So bringing changes from the remote repository to your local repo. Now, let's assume that I have cloned the repository and then somebody made some changes in the repository, all right? And they have pushed their changes to the repository. And I want to have the changes that that person made. I will have to pull or fetch it. So pulling or fetching, I will bring the changes that other people have made on the repository that I don't have locally on my own system. So staging means when you make changes to your Git repository or directory, you would commit, you would stage them, like you would add them, to when you stage them, it means that you're preparing them for committing. So there are basically 3 stages of a file. All right, a file that is modified, a file that is staged, and a file that is committed. And then when you come to a GitHub, a Git repository, there are three areas or three sections of a Git repository. The first one is the working tree. The second one is the staging area. And the last one is the Git repository. So now the staging area is where all the changes that you have made are stored for committing. So after you make the changes, you will add those changes to your staging area. That means you stage it. So after staging it, you can now commit it. All right. So head means is a pointer to your current branch or commit. So head is the pointer to your current branch or commit. Okay. So what is GitHub? GitHub is a cloud-based platform for hosting Git repositories. So cloud-based platform, so you don't have it on your system. Everybody will have access to it. It has collaboration features like remote repository hosting, issue tracking, pull requests for code reviews. Don't worry, you're going to learn all these things. Wiki and documentation support, GitHub actions, continuous integration, and continuous development. Okay, so social coding, follower stars, forking of projects. Other Git hosting platforms are like, we also have GitLab, we have Bitbucket, we have SourceForge. So, but GitHub is the most popular hosting Git platform. So let's take a look at some of Git workflow. All right. If you want to initialize a repository, you will do Git init. So with Git init, it will create a Git repository for you locally. If you want to clone a repository from GitHub, you will use git clone, then the URL. Don't worry, we are going to show you how to do all these things at the end of this section. If you want to check for repository status, you can do that using the Git status. So the thing is that before I started making this class, I uninstalled my Git. I would have shown you how these things work, but I'm going to show you how to install it. Then we can come back to this Git workflow. So if you want to initialize Git repository, use the Git init. If you want to clone a repository, use the Git clone, then the URL. All right. If you want to check for status, use the Git status. If you want to add files to staging area, that means you have made some changes to a file and you want to add it to the staging area so that it can be committed to the Git repository. You use the git add, then the name of the file. Or if you say git add dots, it means that you want to add all the changes that you have made, all the changes that you have made on the whole Git repository. Okay. We also have the committing of changes. So git commit. So when you have staged a Git repository, when you have staged your changes using the git add, all right, then you will now have to commit it, making the changes permanent. So, and once you're doing this, you will need to give a message. So a message is like, what is the reason for the commit? What's the reason for this commit? Okay. We also have push. So when you're done, after you have committed, you can now push it to GitHub. You say git push origin main, all right? Don't worry. Like I said, at the end of this week, we would actually, the CLI to do application that we created last time, we are going to push it to GitHub. So you can also put changes from GitHub using git pull origin main or git fetch origin main. So you can also do branching. You can say git branch, you create a branch. Then when you now say git checkout, so you create a branch by using git branch. Once you have created a branch, that means that branch will now have the whole copy of the main branch. Then you now say git checkout. So you're telling Git, okay, I want to start working with this particular branch. All right. So, but don't worry, you're going to understand most of this thing very well. You can also merge. So after you have done all you're doing with the particular branch, you can now say git checkout main. So I want to go back to the main branch. Then I will now say git merge. So you're not telling Git to merge the main branch with the feature XYZ branch. All right. So GitHub collaboration workflow, you can fork somebody's, you can fork a repository, you copy someone else's repo into your GitHub. So you don't have a repository. The repository is not yours, but you can do something we call forking. All right, you can fork somebody else GitHub repository, and you now have the repository in your own. So you can also clone it locally. Once you have formed the person's repository, you will now clone it locally and start working on it. So you can create a branch to make your own changes. You can commit and push to update the changes to GitHub, and you can open a pull request suggest your changes to the main branch, to main project. So when you don't worry, you're going to learn all these things. I think I'm actually running ahead of ourselves here. So there's also something we call code review and merge. So there's a lot we are going to be learning here. So now, what is the benefit of using Git and GitHub? Collaboration with teams worldwide, full project history, secure backup on the cloud, experimentation using branches without breaking the main code. So you would want to experiment something on your project without breaking the main code. You can just create a branch out of it and start working on that branch. Community contribution via open source projects. So most of the open source projects use Git and GitHub. Enhance employability. So when you have a very good GitHub profile is a portfolio. So when you have a very good GitHub profile, all right, it will enhance your employability. Okay. So real world example, imagine you and your friends are writing a book together. All right. So with Git, each of you keeps a full copy of the book. If you make edits and your friend also makes edits, Git will help merge the changes that both of you have made. With GitHub, you store the book online, so both of you can access it, review changes, and keep everything synchronized. So, in summary, version control system manages file changes and history. Git is a distributed version control system, fast and secure. GitHub is a platform to host Git repository with collaboration features. There are core concepts like the repo, commit, branch, merge, push. You're going to see more of this later on. Why do you use it? For collaboration, for version tracking, for backup, open source, okay? So now let's get to the main thing. Now let's install Git, all right? So you are going to set up your GitHub account. Yes, I'm just going to show you how to install Git. So you're going to set up your GitHub account. So the first thing you do is for Windows, I'm going to show you how to install for Windows, but if you're using Mac, OS, or Linux, please go and check how to do that, okay? So let's go to Git. So basically, I am just going to skip so many things here. So I would open my browser. So I'm just going to go to Google and I'll type Git. Just typing Git, I will hit enter. Look at what it has given me here. So it says download for Windows. So I'm just going to go straight to download for Windows. Okay. So when I come here, so I'm going to download the standalone installer. So I'm downloading for Windows. I'm using this one, S64 setup. Okay, so I already have it downloaded, but let me just show you. Let's start afresh. So if I click on Git for Windows, it is trying to start downloading. All right, it's downloading. You can see it is downloading. 67.7 MB is downloading. So once it has downloaded, once the download is complete, you go to your download folder. So once it is complete, it's either you open it from here. I can open it from here, or I can go to my download folder. So wherever you see it, just double click on it and it will open the installer for you. Now it is asking me if I want to make changes. I will say yes. Okay, so there's no need for the browser again. Let me just close it. So it is saying blah, 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 blah. Yes, I'll just click on next. And this is where I want to install it, just next. You can pretty much leave every default. So it's saying that I already have Git because I have a folder Git. So it says already exists. Would you like to install to that folder anyways? Now the thing is that let me go and, before I continue here, let me go and uninstall. Let me go and delete that folder. It is in my program files Git. So let me just go and delete. Let me go and delete it, please. All right. Let me delete it so that I won't have any issues. I'll go to program files. I'll go to program files. Then this Git, I'm just going to delete this folder. I'm going to delete it. Continue. All right, so that I will not have issues there again. So I will go back to my installer. Okay, so the installer didn't continue install. Okay, look at it here. So I'll go back to it and I'll say next. All right. So it says you can select this addition icon so that it will be on your desktop if you want to. All right. Leave every other thing like this. I don't know if you want to check daily for Git for Windows update, you can click on it. All right. So maybe I can just select it for daily updates. Maybe add Git bash profile to Windows terminal. Maybe I'll just say yes. So for me, I'm just selecting everything. That is up to you. I will say next. Use VM for your default editor. Now, when you get here, use VM for your default editor. I can just go and say, no, I don't want VM. I want Visual Studio Code. So this is Visual Studio Code Insiders, Visual Studio Code as Git default. So you can select your default what's it called again? Default editor, code editor. So I'm going to say use Visual Studio Code as Git default editor. I'll select this one. I'm not using the Vim. All right, so I will say next. I will say let Git decide. I will say next. Git from command line and also third-party software recommended. I'll just leave this one as the default. So use bundled open SSH, use external. This uses SSH that comes from with Git. So I'll just go with next. I'll go with next. I'll just leave everything the default. I'll just leave everything. Then I would install. Okay, so you can see it installing. So all you have to do is to go and download it, then open the installer, and then you can install it. Okay, so you can click on launch Git bash, but I wouldn't do that. I would just click on finish. So I don't need this. I can just close the browser. I wouldn't have even selected. So you can see what I did. So you can just follow the instruction here. Follow the instruction here. Follow the instruction. Follow the instruction. The instruction. The instruction. All right. Then after installation, let us now check for. Let us now, after installation, open command prompt or git bash, then run git version. So let's see the version of our git here. So I'm going to open command prompt, cmd. To be sure that this is installed, I will say git -- version. And it says I have Git version 2.501 Windows.1. So of course I have Git installed. So my Git is installed, okay? So what's the next thing we need to do? Let's go and configure. Let's do some configuration. We are not going to do much, all right? But the few configuration we are going to do is after installing Git, configure your username and email. This will be tied to your GitHub account. So this will be tied to your GitHub account. So I'm going to do what you go back to the command prompt, you will do git config. So I want to configure my git. I will say git config, and I will say global -- global. All right. So this will be and I'll say user.name. And then user.name will be equal to user.name. Then in quote, my username will be one person. Okay, so I will hit enter, it is configured. So I can go back and say, then let me do the email. So user.email, then I'll put in my email address. So you do the same for gmail.com. So I will hit enter and I have it configured. So I have my username and I have my email configured. So this is the few configuration we can do here. This is the few things we can do here. So, but as we go on, we are going to be doing more, okay? So if you want to check if the setup is correct, you just do git config, then list. So if I want to check if my configurations were correct and other configurations that I have, the default configuration I have, I will say git config -- list. So it will give me a list of all the configuration that I have on this system. All right. You can see that my code editor is the Visual Studio Code. My username is this, my default branch is this, but I can also change the default branch. Also, there are so many things we can do. So, but this is the default configuration of my Git here in the system. So that is it. But as we go on, we're going to understand better. Okay. So thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. If you have any question as you're downloading and installing the Git, if you have any confusion, please reach out, drop it. Let us know in the WhatsApp group what could be your challenge. Okay. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in the next class.